Every rock station tries to be irreverent, you know, that's the thing. We're reverent, we don't care what other people think. But as you listen to this KRZR, you realize they don't.
That was the radio station for the Fresno Rocker. KRZR was the go-to radio station whenever we booked shows.
It was its own beast. I remember the first time I listened to Jen do Freak News, I was like 12 or 13. Driving down 99 and hearing the morning show, and it was just chaos. And then over the years, I was like, I have to be a part of that. And I walked in and it was like, oh crap.
And KRZR was the one station that was in your face and actually bragged about it.
You name it, it was something that was just ridiculous. What could we not do? I mean, and a lot of it would involve lawsuits and stuff, and we'd still do it. So it was just, you know, it was radio on crack.
They were fever. I mean, you had to be careful. Since I worked on that station, I can tell you, you didn't just go on the air and say, man, I wish somebody put a bullet in that guy. Because somebody might do it that day.
Living on the East Coast, I knew people who worked in radio on the East Coast that wanted to work at KRZR. Rick's coming through, he's like, no, you're gonna have to stick your tongue in. So I go in, and I actually go in for the kiss. The donkey almost bites my tongue off.
KRZR was all about imagination. It was all about finding something that was amusing and blowing it out to this insane proportion. They were the kings of making mountains out of molehills.
KRZR was a kick-ass rock station. I mean, like, kick-ass rock station. Like, no other station I'd ever saw before. It was not just music. And I know that sounds really cliche, but it was a lifestyle.
More like the heavy, you know, death metal, black t-shirt, Keystone, you know, just what they are, dude.
Yeah.
And I always thought they were just like this big throbbing gristle of like,
So we came, we saw, and we rocked, you know, and that's the best thing you can say about any rock station.
If it wasn't for the callers at KRZR, you wouldn't be doing this film.
KRZR is just crazy, wacky stuff, you know, along with them, it's crazy, wacky DJs, crazy, wacky bits, and everything that goes with it, along with music.
It was always going to be a Wild Hare. Good or bad, it was my idea. It was going to be the Wild Hare because it's the only radio moniker that made sense.
If you grew up loving hard rock and heavy metal music, chances are there was a kick-ass radio station in your hometown that turned you on to all your favorite bands. And if that radio station is still around, it's probably not as good now as it was back in the day. This is the story of KRZR in Fresno, California. Best station I ever worked for, and probably one of the best rock stations I've ever heard. It's also a time capsule, a throwback to a bygone era when rock radio really mattered. Ask any kid these days and they'll tell you radio's not cool anymore. But you ask any headbanger who grew up in Fresno and they'll all tell you it used to be.
Typical KRZR listener?
Yeah.
He's letting out his rocker just enough to keep his job. So his hair may not be all the way down, but it's not super short either, although there was a lot of guys like that. You know, as soon as it got okay to grow facial hair again, here it comes. Here comes the goatee. Everybody got one. He may not wear a black concert t-shirt every day, but he either has 20 of them or, God help him, one that he wears all the time. So you know what a black concert shirt starts getting brown and there's no reason for it? That guy. He wears jeans. God help me, he probably wishes he had an El Camino.
I'm always blown away by how genuinely cool rock fans are, and KRZR fans were. You know, like, it can be a little scary sometimes. You know, I might not, I might ask for like someone to walk me to my car some nights when we were out at an event. But
the Fresno rock audience is some of the most knowledgeable, and they knew their stuff.
For me, it was a little bit scary, actually, a little bit, because I realized some of them would do anything for you if you asked them to.
Right.
And that's nice, it's flattering, but it's also scary because if you told them, I want you to skin a goat and wear it all day, they would. And that's a frightening thing is that, and another, they're genuinely giving from the heart. They're scary too. The KRZR listeners are scary, but most of them are really good from the heart. I mean, they're not pretentious. They don't show up acting any way other than that they are, and I really dug that, man. It's like what you see is what you get.
And they were the happiest people I've ever met. I love the rock kids in Fresno, man. They're some of the most supportive, fun people I've ever been around in my life. And it seems almost unique to Fresno.
Demographics and analysis aside, Fresno is a market that responds to authenticity, that responds to people coming from a place of sincerity. Fresno loves somebody who is being who and what they really are. And KRZR was being exactly what the personalities who worked there wanted it to be.
When you go to a KRZR event, it was the entire spectrum. I mean, there was literally a little bit of everything. And that was what was cool too. It was a slice of Fresno, because go through Fresno. You have everything from the farmers to, you know, corporate guy to whatever, and they were all listening, so it really was a nice cross-section.
The women sometimes rock harder than the men, because like if Kiss came to town,
they're gonna do whatever
the women would show up like if we were giving away Rob Zombie tickets, like we could get a kid to eat, you know, dog food and corn off of RJ's feet, no problem.
It happened.
But if Kiss was coming to town and we would have had front row seats to like Kiss, every woman in her early 40s or whatever age they were would have showed up and said, I don't care what I gotta do, I'm getting those tickets.
It takes a certain amount of grit to live in this town and to claim it as your own. Now, you can bag on Fresno as much as you want if you live here, but don't come in from the outside, you know? Like, you can call your own sister ugly, but you can't let anybody else. I don't know, it's just, they're just real, you know? I don't fit well. It's a bunch of misfits, and I fit in perfect with the misfits.
If you didn't cruise Blackstone with KRZR, you totally missed out on what cruising Blackstone was all about.
Amateur tattoo artist on his second marriage, 3 kids from 4 different moms. Actually, that's just the staff, but I would say that a Fresno rocker is just like a KRZR DJ, except they bathe more.
This is where I differ with a lot of people. I'm not convinced that there is a typical Fresno rocker. That was one of the things about KRZR. I mean, sure, you had the guys in their Slayer shirts. You know, you had the real extreme, but I mean, they were just regular, everyday, ordinary people who just enjoyed rock music and enjoyed a little craziness. Who actually had jobs. You know, I mean, that was really the bulk of KRZR's audience. For example, at one point, 66% of KRZR's audience owned a home. So it wasn't just crazy rockin' the meth lab people that listened to KRZR. That always chapped my hide. That was a reputation about KRZR's audience that wasn't completely deserved. Sure, the meth lab guys, they listen to us too. And yeah, we bear the shame of being on Cops twice that showed our sticker, 2 different arrestees. Yes, my own father-in-law, you know, his car was stolen. They found it in an abandoned field, and when he finally got the car started, it was blasting KRZR. Yeah, okay, all of those things are true. But that's not all of KRZR's audience.
They came to Fresno, it was literally a breath of fresh air. There was this whole moment, people mentioned KKDJ. There was this whole moment where, you know, KKDJ was it as far as rock and Dean and Dawn and the Breakfast Club and all those guys. And then there was this lull. There was this Magic 102.7, and there was this crap that just came here that it was like it was okay to do, and it really wasn't. So they started this new rock station, and there was this point in time where my friends and I would sit outside of a guy's garage out in the middle of nowhere where it's all houses now, but would be a point to be like put on ZR and drink beer at underage and rock out to whatever they were playing at night. And they weren't playing crap again, dude. They were playing good stuff. I mean, it was rock. It was rocking Fresno.
The station started out as part of the rock 40 format. We were almost more top 40 than we were rock, but I changed that very quickly. and I bucked the tide, and I bucked the company who owned us at the time, and I made it more rock. I got rid of the pop elements as fast as I could. I shot straight for the heart of 18 to 34-year-old guys.
My father had a 1986 Suburban that he'd modified the sound system on, and No Quarter from Led Zeppelin came on. And my dad showed me that was the song, why he set up his system with it, and he had the speakers zooming around and round. And I just have these memories of my father sitting there drinking a Coors Light Tallboy, driving down the 99 with me, listening to Led Zeppelin on the Psychedelic Supper with KKDJ, and I think that was it. And it was when KRZR came on the air. I mean, come on, people, Guns N' Roses was hit, and, Tool was like an underground background thing. I mean, a few years after KRZR came on the air, but it was like nobody was playing what KRZR was playing. It was the music that pissed off your parents.
KRZR was still real new at that time. I'd kind of heard of them, didn't really know what it was, but we went to a preview, a midnight showing of Batman with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. And I remember waiting in line out front, and KKDJ was giving away bat crap. That was their sling, their thing. And we were all standing out front of the theater, and it's the old theater off of Barstow and Shaw, where it's a used car lot now or whatever it is. But we were in front of the theater, waiting for the show, and this Mercedes pulls up, and I couldn't even tell you who did it. Somebody jumped out of the car. There was about 4 guys. They jump out, and they scream, KKDJ gives you bat crap. KRZR gives you munchies. And they flung corn nuts all into the crowd. T-shirts, corn nuts, all kind of hats. They made the fatal mistake of asking people in the audience when we were in the theater to, if you give them something that KRZR had their name on a shirt or whatever, they would give you something in return that has their name on it. Well, when they asked for something from them, corn nuts just flew clear up. I mean, and not in the bag either. It was just handfuls of corn nuts raining up on the stage.
There's a lot that's said about Fresno and the dynamic musically of it's a hard rockin' town. Has that always been true?
Boy, it was when I got here. And quite frankly, that made it easy. Because, really hard sounds that wouldn't have worked elsewhere worked in a white blue-collar town like Fresno.
Wow. I do not remember ever dressing up as Guido Sarducci. Look at that mullet. Look at that mullet! Dude!
Chris Daniel was actually my first hire. Although Chris Daniel almost never got the job because I had a resume for him, but the phone number was bad on it.
I lose my job in Tucson working for some bebop station. I don't remember why. I'm sure it has something to do with me. And I get so broke that I just hit the road.
So I tried calling him at KRQ in Tucson. He worked the all-night shift. And for 3 nights in a row, I woke up in the middle of the night in Salt Lake City to call him. And I'm trawling the request line, and it would ring, and it would ring, and it would ring. Typical disc jockey, never answering the line. When it finally did ring the 3rd day into it, I told him who I was, and I really needed to leave a message for Chris Daniel. And the response was, "Oh man, they fired him yesterday." And I begged him to pass a message on saying I was trying to offer him a job.
I go to Palm Springs, it's 118 and I'm in a jacket and tie. I don't get that job. And I headed up to Bakersfield where this dude who ran the Bakersfield station knew my dad, so I'm trying to make a hookup, and I'm sitting in his office and this call comes in and the guy takes it. I thought, well, that's kind of rude, having an interview here. And it's Curtis Johnson going to this guy, Rick, do you have any idea if Chris Daniel is alive or dead and where I can find him? Because I'd sent him a bunch of tapes. And he said, he's sitting in my office right now, which apparently caused E. Curtis to make a little bit of cheese in his pants because it was too weird. And I did the KRZR deal from room 206 at the Motel 6 at California Avenue in Bakersfield.
If it wouldn't have been for that, Chris would have never come to Fresno.
it's what told me that this was supposed to happen. And in those days, I didn't listen to those inner voices. I just kind of went on impulse. But this one said loud enough, you better go.
I realized we were special when we were successful without any money. I mean, we didn't even have leadership other than, okay, the PD and the disc jockeys, but there was no corporate management. There was no direction from above. I mean, it was literally the inmates leading the asylum. We got to do radio. We got to do what was in our black hearts and have fun with it, and the audience responded.
The golden age of any radio, and especially rock radio, where there were a lot less rules, which means more imagination can spring up and play. It's just that. It's the theater of the mind. Whether you're, doing Adventures in Cleavage Canyon, which is all scripted and acted out, and I'm all nervous like a little mother hen on my bit, full-blown radio theater, or just, nobody did it better than you, just that one little break where you present a situation that's going on in the studio that ain't going on in the studio. It's all going on up in your head. And a year later, somebody comes and tells you about that bit you did. They were willing to believe. They wanted to believe. It was a better world than what they were living. It was a better world than what we were living.
When I first put Chris Daniel on in mornings, we had just got a consultant. The general manager, who left shortly after that, had forced a consultant on us. And the consultant was trying to force us to be a more music morning show. No, thank you. The final word on that consultant for me was, I got his approved music list every week. And he had the approved list, and it was the turkey list. And on the turkey list at the top was Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit. Now, I didn't know that Nirvana was going to be as big as they are, but I knew that song was a hit. I knew that song was going to be a hit. And that was the final straw for me. And I fired the consultant. In fact, we got into an argument over on the phone about it, and we literally rushed to our fax machines. Hey, remember those? We really rushed to our fax machines to both fire each other. But since I was literally signing the checks at the time, he wasn't signing my checks, I was signing his. I got to fire him. Goodbye, consultant. When that problem went away, we finally were able to unleash Chris on the morning show.
I'm second generation radio. My dad did 51 years, 45 of them in New York. I'm really proud of him. It's a reason why, I use my last name. It would have been a lot easier just to use a fake name. And he is as different from me on the radio as you could possibly be, but there's a conversational tone. I guess I got it from my dad, and I didn't know I got it from my dad.
Again, he was able to draw people in every morning, and they became so passionate about him and about the station, and they followed him. They became followers of Chris in the front row.
He had people like Rush Limbaugh has people, and they were like, oh, well, that's not what Chris says. It's almost like they had a little book, the book of Chris, and they would go and check it out from time to time.
I was class clown from second grade on. Anytime I got in trouble, it was me trying to get noticed, But I don't remember staying an attention whore. I just remember being a fan of humor, and I really wanted to be the guy that had the line. Or I wanted to be the guy in the room that was in the room when the line was delivered.
When I first started at KRZR, when I first started in the front row, we had Tweaker Russ, this guy that we called Tweaker Russ, who wanted so badly to be a part of it. And he was a fun guy, but he was insane. And we sent him out, and this was in the days, and again, how things change. You could have people come in and work for free without being an intern or without just some guy. And Tweaker Russ, we sent him out. He did listener lawn wrestling. We would send him to people's houses, and they would come out in the front lawn, and he would wrestle them to the ground. And it was a matter of, who's going to win, Tweaker Russ or the listener. We would place bets. No way in hell you can do that now.
Yeah, there's Chris and Jen and Aaron Giant Lee. Excuse me. There's two front rows. There's Chris and Jen and Aaron the Giant Lee. And there's Chris and Jen and Dano.
And Brad coming later.
And then, you know what? Yeah, this is the problem with naming people. No, there's three front rows. Then there's Chris and Jen and Brad. And then there's Jen and Brad. And then Chris comes back. And then Chris goes. And it's Jen and Brad. And you know what? There's a whole lot of front rows, isn't there?
You know, this will surprise a lot of people, and it won't surprise some people. Every day we walked in there, we had little, if no clue what we were going to do that day. I swear to God, all we knew is we're going to throw the phones open, we're going to start talking, something's going to happen, and we had the freedom, it was very important, we had the freedom to do what we wanted. He Curtis gave us enough rope to hang ourselves, but he let us dance with it. And that was the freedom of the front row was something I'll never forget, and I haven't seen anything since then.
It's hard to express how lucky I was to find Jennifer and Brad, and also Dano, who also had it, and one of the greatest dry humors in the world, Aaron the Giant Lee. But Jen and Brad was Jen and Brad. And there were markers, we knew certain things, but mostly I just got really lucky to find two unbelievably naturally funny people who got it, you know, who understood. Who, when it was time for them to shine on their own, they shone on their own. When it was time to work as a team, they worked as a team. When one of us was trailing, somebody'd come in with something.
That's something Chris did. Chris is good at spotting what people can do and bringing the best out. That's another, as far as Chris's abilities. He really knows how to highlight other people's skills. And there was chemistry in there. Without that, it would have been just three people. Without that, that's another thing about radio is that if you don't have chemistry, you can't teach it, you can't learn it, you can't buy it. But when you have it, your show's transformed. Something different after that.
I appreciate quick, good humor. I don't particularly have quick, good humor. Brad has it, Jen has it, Rick has it, a couple others has here had it. I have to go off on a story, or it takes me a long time to get where I want to go.
What were your thoughts when you heard the front row?
Well, they had their thing, and we weren't even going to go against them because they were number one, and we were told, you come into town, don't even worry about those guys. They've got that market right there. If you can be number two or number three, which we ended up, everybody was happy.
They really kind of led the station forward. They were always pushing the envelope, always trying to dip their toe over the line, and yeah, they have the longevity that they had.
Wasn't there a point when you guys were banned on school buses?
I've heard that rumor. I can't say that it's completely true. I don't know. No, I know that in Clovis school buses we were banned for a while. The front row specifically was banned. And I don't think it was for any one reason. I think it was just, a perception of, these wild-ass rockers, and it's too much. It's too much for the kids to be hearing.
Outside of Dingo Boy, which I'm sure everybody said, it almost after getting into radio when I found out that Dingo Boy wasn't a physical person that lived in the KRZR studios. Lawn Sausage, Freaks.
I remember going into finals one day. I made my mom put the phone next to the radio so I could hear Jen's top 100 freaks, but it was like the top 10. So I put it next to her phone next to the radio, and I went in and I was listening on my cell phone before class started, so I could hear the story about the lobster.
I started taking these stories and I started looking for the ones that were like that, and I titled them Freak News. Okay, we're gonna do Freak News, and it caught on, like wildfire. The reason it's kind of an albatross sometimes, though, still, is trying to constantly one-up that. Now, there's a standard that's been set. It was one thing when it was Lucky the guide dog who's killed his last 5 blind owners, which is an awesome story. This guide dog had to be retired because he literally killed 5 of his owners. He walked one into traffic, he walked one off a pier. I mean, that's an amazing story. But you can't have stories like that every day, unfortunately. So, yeah, I mean, trying to search the underbelly of the web to find the next person that stapled the wound shut and resumed work. That's hard.
I know one of the programs I used to like, the morning team there, they had Burn a Bud Thursdays, that they used to do. That was one of my favorite. In fact, I used to listen to it. If I were in my car, I would tune to KRZR just to hear Burn a Bud Thursdays every Thursday morning.
Burn a Bud, which anybody who's not familiar with, Burn a Bud Thursdays were you'd set up a friend of yours, send us a letter and tell us why your buddy should be burned, you know, and we'd create this elaborate story. Oh, you accidentally returned a homemade porno tape instead of the movie that you rented. That sort of thing.
He was charged with taking his nephew, who was 14 or 15 years old, on a date, chaperoning the nephew and his girlfriend to a movie and dinner. And the entire time, this dickweed is bagging on his nephew, telling his date that he's only got one testicle. Well, the nephew's mother, so brother of, writes into the front row when Burn a Buds comes into existence and says, here's the deal. There's nothing wrong with my kid, but my brother, the uncle, he's only got one nut. They get this guy on the phone. Chris and Jen double teaming him, going back and forth, pretending to be a doctor's office, alleging that his nephew has been in a bicycle accident, he had crushed his testicles, and he needed a transplant. And they're just after this guy. Sir, you're the closest biological match. We need you to donate. And finally, the guy says on the air, look, Doc, I've only got one nut. I hear, hold please, and you hear hold music playing and ha 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 off mic. And then he comes back, and Chris asks the guy, I'm sorry, sir, we're trying to get help for your nephew so-and-so. We need to get a testicle, blah, blah, blah. And the guy says, look, Doc, my name is and I only have one nut. They string him along just a little bit longer, and then Chris starts laughing. He goes, I'm not a doctor, I'm a morning show host, and you're a prick. And this man lost his mind.
We told somebody they brought the wrong baby home from the hospital. But what was best was the picture that we painted of the baby that was going to be traded for them. Oh, it's beautiful, kind of like a jack-o'-lantern baby. One molar, one tooth, right in the front.
The first thing you said to me was, you're not going to impress me by, saying dick. I've heard every word for dick there is. Really? And I said, have you ever sucked the cheese flag at the beef pit? And then what? So I was at the Save Mart, and we were discussing whether eating produce was stealing, or if it was just sampling.
Yeah.
And I was standing there, I was looking at the potato aisle, and there was a potato that looked much like a dick. And I said, I haven't done my peanut. He said, oh yeah. So he plays the music, and I said, and now from the produce aisle, the word today is dictator.
Nobody can say more in less words with maximum creativity to get his message across at Brad Giesa. I've never seen anything like it. He did it the first day he was there. He did a penile euphemism on his tryout. I don't think we had done 2 breaks, and he's talking about, how did it go? Sinking the beef pole into the cheese pot.
Like, how many penile euphemisms do you think, would you ask, thousands?
I have lists of them at home. I'd say they probably verge on 1,000.
Shoot me off some of your favorites, if you remember any.
Telescopic spelunkers, the master cylinder with Philip Oliver Canyon, one-hole baloney phone, pajama!
March 14th, 1997. Okay, I remember smelling smoke. That wasn't always a good thing.
The on-air vasectomy is what keeps in my mind, I can't decide. Thought Brad Giesa might be the most homophobic person in the world, but it might be Dano. He was the producer of the show at the time, and also on air with us. And he was there in the doctor's office, and he thought that he was actually going to pull off covering this, putting a mic in my face, getting all the shots, getting the other reactions, and not seeing my balls.
So somebody's, what we're going to do, who's going to hold the mic, Like, well, I'm not staying in here for this thing. So I ended up, I handed the mic, I was just outside the door of where the procedure was taking place on Mr. Chris Daniels and stuff.
So I go in to see Dr. Dale, I remember his name, and Roxanne was with me.
Yeah.
I go in, and they gave me a little local, and then they gave me a shot of Versed. It's kind of like a suitcase in a syringe. You know, you're not unconscious, but you don't really remember anything. So it could get you in trouble pretty fast.
So, okay, real fast. Dano covered his eyes like this. But he's done something devious, and I've never known to this day if he accomplished it. Prior to doing it, I said that they were going to give me this drug called Versed. Well, we all know what Versed is now, but it was kind of new then. And I was afraid that I was going to get so honest that I was going to start forgetting where I was and talking about things in my private life that, you know, I just never would want to talk about. So I said to the doctor, look, I can take a lot of pain. Give me half of what you would normally give. What I don't know is, Dano's on the side dealing to make a better show. He's saying give him twice what you would normally give. And I, to this day, don't know which it was, because as soon as the Versed went into my veins, I completely understood heroin, which I've never done, but I really got it because I felt fantastic. So I'm chatty and I'm talking, and I'm trying to do the show.
And I remember that I thought we were going off the air because when they zapped him with the laser, it cut out the mic.
I saw the sparks flying out from under the door when they zapped this thing. It was interesting.
Yeah.
When it came time to cut me and then cauterize my man spaghetti, every time that doctor hit it, God damn it, he hit it a lot. Apparently, our little portable thing, it would shoot it out, but what listeners apparently were hearing was, okay, he's going down there, and he's about to make a... And we had a choice between the Wild Hare and the Power Pig. And when you consider how dirty we were, the things we said on the air, the blue jokes, the boob jokes, the dick jokes, I mean, it just never stopped. The music was as dirty as we were. People were loving it. And here we come with a bunny? When we could have been a pig, we were a pig.
You know, I really give all the credit to the Wild Hare, to E. Curtis, the program director of the station. That was really E's vision, to have a character or have a mascot for the station.
I needed to reinvent KRZR. I needed to get it away from what the old Z-Rock listeners thought it should be and what the old KKDJ listeners thought it should be. And I wanted to give it a visual marketing presence. And so I came up with the Wild Hare. You know, it's just a play on words, as in, you know, having a wild hair up your butt.
And I roll up to KRZR, and it was cool because I got here right before the unveiling of the Wild Hare. I literally, my first day on the air was January 17th, 1994. And that Friday, we had the bit. When I came out here, it was just 103.7 KRZR.
We invented a fictitious character named Sharon Bellows, and we promoted her as being a thrill seeker. You know, we said that she had, skydived off the St. Louis Arch. We said that she had, skateboarded the face of Grand Coulee Dam. I mean, you can't do any of those things. But we just painted this woman as being this thrill seeker, and her next big stunt was that she wanted to give birth live on the radio.
Sure enough, Friday morning we did a remote broadcast, and we had one of our part-timers was out there on a table with a silhouetted thing for anybody who wanted to come out and see it. There was the visual as much as there was the audio, which is important, you know, dinner and a show.
I get a call from a woman in the Attorney General's office. She's a Deputy Attorney General. And she is just indignant that a woman is going to give birth in a parking lot without medical attention. And I don't remember what I said to her. It wasn't very polite. And I let her know that she had been suckered, and that possibly with all the other things going on in California, that maybe she should spend the taxpayers' money in another way.
Like a Wild Hare. I don't even get that, man. Dude, it so worked. It just so worked.
Wild Hare was an odd mascot, I thought. I mean, I get it. Wild Hare, you got a wild hair up your ass. But it was easy for the competition to go, hey, nice bunny, you know, and that, there's nothing worse than hearing, hey, I saw your bunny up the other day. Yeah, don't call it a bunny. And that, if there was anything you could do that would piss off E. Curtis when he was program director, just call it a bunny.
I don't understand where it came from, but it fit. I hated that big inflatable. I fucking hated setting that thing up when it was 100 degrees outside and hot, and it was gross, and you get this black grime on you, and we tried washing it and you couldn't get it off.
We must have had, I think we ended up, we went through 3 different Wild Hare inflatables. And, you know, we would take that thing out to just about anywhere we could think of. It made a statement. When that thing was up and you saw it on a street corner, you know, it meant something to see that big Wild Hare.
Now, Dale Berry was the guy that I hired to draw the Wild Hare. Okay, Dale's day job was drawing comic books. On the weekends, he works at a rock station. I mean, it's hell like the dream job or what?
It's funny, if you ever meet Dale Berry and take a look at him and take a look at the Wild Hare, you're going to notice more than a few physical similarities that no one will ever actually admit.
I mean, did you give him guidance, or did he start with something and then you kind of critiqued it? What was the evolution of that?
Yeah, I had a vision for what I wanted it to look like. Dale and I would argue about that sometimes, because, you know, I looked at it as, you know, I'm the architect and you're the builder. And sometimes he would say, oh, no, you're the builder, I'm the architect. There was this struggle sometimes of what the thing should look like. One time I told Dale, I says, look, Dale, I'm the art director here. And he looked me square in the eye and he goes, well, you may be the art director, but you are not a art director. But he was right. He was right. He was the professional artist. I was just a disc jockey with a dream in my head.
It took off like wildfire. Once again, E really knew the market. He knew what the people would respond to, and rarely in my entire career have I ever seen a audience bond with a station mascot before. Certainly never seen them respond the way they did to the Wild Hare. We ended up doing 40 plus t-shirt designs, multiple product designs, inflatables, billboards, etched beer mugs, the paintings on the sides of buses, just tons of advertising. I heard once that some numbers had been crunched somewhere, and that the Wild Hare was in fact, nationally speaking, the second most recognizable iconic mascot for a radio station in its market in the U.S.
When we started doing the Wild Hare series of, you know, Hercules and Metallic Hair or whatever it was, some of those were great. I still have all those t-shirts.
Basically, we kind of covered our cost. You know, we made a little bit of money, but only so we could buy more t-shirts. And we gave away a lot of them. I mean, I have some favorites, and they're all bad puns, every single one of them. Jägermeister, that's a good one. The Jägermeister, the favorite part about the Jägermeister is if you look at a bottle of Jaeger, it has Old German written around it. I actually found a woman who spoke German to translate that for me so that we could do a spoof on the writing around it. I mean, Dale went to meticulous detail, you know, to make the, you know, the head of the hare look like the stag on the bottle of Jaeger. I mean, it's just parody.
Show Us Your Wild Hare was a great idea. Show Us Your Wild Hare, the intent was, okay, we've got $10,000, do the craziest thing, show us your wild hair, Fresno.
We introduced the campaign with Show Us Your Wild Hare for $10,000. And people did all kinds of crazy things. There was a woman who dressed as Lady Godiva. She wore 4 things: a horse and 3 stickers. And she rode this big white horse on the northwest corner of Shaw and Blackstone. Me and the general manager, Chris Pacheco, almost got arrested that night. We made it as far as the back seat of the cop car, and there was this little short 5'3" duty sergeant. I mean, he had this terrible Napoleon complex. Boy, he was reading us the riot act. And we're sitting in the back of this cop car just kind of going, yes, sir, okay, we won't do this again. We just didn't want to go to jail.
The Show Us Your Wild Hair contest, especially the first one. I never saw a guy dive face first into pure animal feces before. Face first in a what were we in, a big lots parking lot or something? And he just ate it. And he came up out of that with a smile. A big smile, thinking, for sure I've got the $10,000. I just dove face first into pig shit. He had pig shit on his teeth, and he came in 4th.
Jeff Higginbotham and Eric Meacham were 2 guys. They were kind of young, kind of starving college students. They had 2 crap cars.
And what they did was they took these 2 cars, they took these 2 old cars, and they did the top half of a KRZR bumper sticker on one car and the bottom half of a KRZR bumper sticker on the other car. And they hired a crane to come out and drop the one car on top of the other and make this huge bumper sticker out of 2 old cars. They filmed the whole thing and bought a commercial on, I think it was KC24 at the time, I'm not sure. But they aired the commercial of the creation of a KRZR bumper sticker. It was phenomenal.
That was the winner. $10,000.
Show Us Your Wild Hair 2, I literally thought I was going to watch a man die in front of me. That was.
Show Us Your Wild Hair 2 for $20,000 actually killed that campaign, because the winner was a guy, I don't even remember his name, but it was 3 paintball fanatics, and they came up with this bright idea. Hey, let's take 100 paintball shots to a bare chest in a minute.
But he came out and he was just in his underwear, and he came out.
He had 2 paintball buddies, and this guy was kinda, this is as close as they'll let me get to the Army, kind of guy. And so when he was getting ready to, whatever he was shooting, he was really serious, and he hit him in the chest with these paintballs from, I want to say 30 feet. Was really close. And he hits him, and of course, so you see the paint, but it's not 30 seconds after he's finished firing that these, like, moon craters start erupting, like this, on his chest. I mean, all over the place, and his legs and stuff, but mostly this guy was pretty good at hitting a guy in the center point. And they're getting big, and they're getting red, and they're bleeding.
And then he did something that he didn't tell us he was going to do in the rules. When he took the shots, he took 2 bottles of rubbing alcohol and poured it on himself. I've never been more scared in my life.
And then he went into shock. Never saw anything quite like that before. So there was a moment of, there are a lot of people here, and this guy could die.
I thought, we've gone too far, something bad is going to happen to this guy. Fortunately, it didn't.
But the mind blower was, the guy wins $20,000 and split it evenly with the 2 guys that shot him.
But the next year, when we tried to do Show Us Your Wild Hair for $30,000, and our first entry was a guy who said that he would nail his scrotum to a stump, we realized it's over. It's over. People thought it was a self-mutilation contest, which it wasn't. That was never what Show Us Your Wild Hair was. It had nothing to do with self-mutilation.
Okay, it's running of the sheep. It's about to happen. It's got to take you to the course and show you what's up here. So you can see as we walk through here, this is going to be the holding pen.
I got the really great privilege of having a stupid idea, bringing it to the show before I even thought about it, got it on the air. We started this, campaign. We made the city a bad guy before the city was a bad guy.
The incarnation of Running of the Sheep started before I even got here. Chris Daniel had been saying for a while, there was some story about the Running of the Bulls. And he said, if we can have Running the Bulls, why can't we have Running of the Sheep? Let them run. And there was a listener at one point who paid out of pocket to have a billboard. It was a billboard up by McKinley and 41. And it just said, let them run.
And I mean, he built that bit horizontally over for weeks and weeks and weeks. Would talk about it. It was a whole play on the the Running of the Bulls at Pamplona, and we finally found a location at Fresno State. The guys in the sheep unit, I don't know what the official name is, but the students at Fresno State in the ag department that raise sheep, they heard about it and they said, hey, we want to get in on this, and because we're students, we can use the park that's on the other side. It's on the north side of Barstow there on the university. And they actually sponsored the event, and people got to come and run with the sheep.
These poor souls have no idea what's to happen.
Make me a loincloth out of wool. I wore to the event. It was awesome.
And people would be fake running, because the sheep they didn't really run, they just kind of walked fast. And so people would look behind them and, fake like they were scared. I mean, it was a total dork event, but it was cool. We loved it.
But when you got something in your head and you're sitting in a room like this, you don't always know if people are laughing at you or with you. You hope it's the one or the other, but I never could tell until that day how into it they were. And we get there, and there's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who all get it.
We were simply doing what KRZR always did, and that's made fun of everything. I mean, there were no sacred cows at KRZR. Everything was fair game, including ourselves.
Since we didn't really care if the station made money or not, since we weren't seeing any of it anyway, why go through the typical thing where then you've got to register at somebody's store? Why not just get a bunch of people to contribute what they have, see how far it can take it, because they're going to have an idea, grab a grab bag full of prizes or no prizes, just to say you did it, and do it that way. And nothing built on the air. Running of the Sheep built pretty hard on the air, but nothing built like the Straight Pride Parade.
It wasn't a hate thing. It was hey, everybody else gets their day, so what about straight people? Let's have a parade, and plaid's the color, and that was our color, because what's straighter than plaid?
A lot of people took that as it was some sort of an anti-gay statement. It was not. We went to great lengths to make certain that there were no slurs. That was not a hate campaign. It was a parody. It was satire. It was a bunch of straight people saying, we're straight, we procreate. I mean, whatever.
The city was not happy about that. There was that moment of, hey, it's okay to give a permit to anybody else, but you're not a special interest group. You're just a bunch of straight people. We don't want troubles. And we brought the petitions out to the fair. We were out at the fair constantly, and the fair was going on at the time, and so we brought our petition out, and once we had a butt pile of signatures, we were allowed to bring it to the city and go for a permit, and we got the permit.
That I felt like if they said no, they knew we were gonna publicize that and make a stink out of it, and so I think that they finally just caved in and said, yes, we need to allow this parade to happen.
The parade route was downtown Fresno. It was around the water tower. I don't even know the streets. I drive past the thing every day. It was Fresno Street and O Street, and it was just downtown streets on a Saturday afternoon. Nobody was downtown, so we got to parade ourselves around.
A lot of media coverage for that.
Yeah. Yeah, because you know what, and this is one of those things that made KRZR great again. It was the thing that everybody wanted to do and nobody else had the balls to do. You know, that's what it came down to. KRZR was that a lot. It was like, we want to, there might be people that stop listening or stop watching if we do something like that. And ZR didn't care. Here's what we're going to do. And it's not about you or you or you or you. It's just something we're going to do. So either get on board or get out of the way.
In that what was it, 63 Continental with suicide doors, same car Kennedy got killed in, wearing a tux with a plaid cummerbund and a ball cap. That was as good as it got, and we did it on a Saturday. You know, so down the city was clever. They gave us a permit for a Saturday, so there's nobody down there. But 3,000 of us got out there. Yeah, that's my proudest day on radio. That was fun. That was, holy cow, we really can't put this together.
Cowboy dude.
Oh, yeah, okay, major wager. We used to do the bladder bet, first of all. Can't do that since Sacramento and the Wee for a Wee incident. But we had them drinking beer. You had to drink a pitcher of beer each quarter, and you weren't allowed to go pee. And beer's different. It has salt in it. Doesn't do what water does. It's okay. But you had to drink the 4 pitchers of beer, and you weren't allowed to pee. And if you could hold it, you won $1 million in major wager money, which you could cash in for a T-shirt or whatever. Major wager was huge.
$1 million for a shirt.
For a shirt. But so we used to do I watched a guy wet himself in the front of a bar because he was not going to go to the restroom. But we did the $1 million bladder bet, and then at halftime we would do crotch bowl, where you'd lay a guy on the floor, and every week somebody would volunteer. It was amazing. And they lay down on the floor, and we put either glasses.
And this is like for 100
our friend has crazy thick glasses. We use his glasses.
Yeah, the rose glasses.
Because they were this thick, you know, Coke bottle glasses. And we put the glasses on her and spin her around and throw her at the guy who was holding a football on his junk. And she'd walk up and, whoa, drunken and glasses bleary-eyed, and kick, and we would bet on whether she'd get turf or not. Thor
Oh,
Ranger.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
God.
There was one week we had he volunteered for crotch bowl, and we spun her around, and she walked up and planted her foot.
That's why she was in soccer or something.
Oh, she was like Olympic, man, and he curled in a ball so tight. He was like a ball bearing, and rolled under a table. And that sound, it was a combination of thwack and thud and man whimpering.
Yeah, that was great.
Never heard anything like that before in my life. To this day, I've never heard anything like that.
And I remember going to E going, RJ and I aren't getting along. And he's like, yeah, so what? And I go, Bauer wants us to get a couple fish and wants us to beat each other with it. And I remember E going, well, you're not going to do it inside. But if you do it outside, what kind of fish? Like, Kenny Baker was one of our favorite sales guys. Yeah. And Ken goes, if you can get the fish, I can get the blow-up ring. And E looked at us, looked at Kenny, kind of looks at the sky, like he usually did, just kind of looked around, you know, and he goes, if you're going to do it, make sure it's good. The 6 months of pent-up frustration with RJ had just
kind of got me to
this
a
blue
snapping
gasket.
point where I'm like, F it, I ain't taking this crap no more. It's good.
I get one shot in with this fish. I swing, I hit him, he blocks it. And then he decides that he's not going to hit me with the fish. He's going to push me. He's going to try to pick me up and body slam me. He looks to Bauer.
I was trying to see if it was okay. Like, I'm like, is this cool? Can I do this?
He's dropped the fish. He just wants to fight me in the ring now. Like, he's forgot the whole concept. Bauer says no, or nods at you or something.
Somehow, but I get him down. I remember I grabbed the fish again, and I just start smashing it in his face. And I'm like, cheese grater style, like all over his face, running all of it.
Up my nose, in my mouth, my ear, the whole
bell rings. I get up, and there's a fish eye pops out of his nostril.
Right, yeah, a fish eye comes out of my nose. It was awesome. Well, I forget I don't have any underwear on. And he's trying to take pictures. And to say that I almost teabagged my boss, pretty close.
Wing bowl.
Talk about it.
Wing bowl, man. Wing bowl. Wing bowl was awesome because, and here's the thing, because we hated each other when you started working there. But the great thing was, when you came along, now we had a rivalry. because there was an afternoon show and a morning show that just wanted to kill each other, and that was awesome. And when we did the first Wing Bowl, and you got to see firsthand that, you know, being the bad guy isn't necessarily just a cartoonish comic book. This is what it is. Like, seriously, there was some hate involved.
I couldn't believe people took it so seriously. I was like, these people want to fucking kill me.
There were people that seriously wanted to beat the shit out of you in the parking lot. I think that's fantastic. But what was awesome, and it was awesome for the station, and it was better than cross promotion because it was cross angst. It was just talking shit on each other back and forth, and listeners were so very, very involved because you had your cadre of Rick Rodham faithfuls that were going to be out there and they were going to be doing your thing, and we had our front row people that were out there, and I thought there was going to be a rumble in the parking lot. Like, there was a lot of intensity. There was a lot of intensity, and it wasn't just all aimed at you. There were factions that were like, wow, we got the Socias and the Greasers here. There's a good possibility that somebody's going to whip out bicycle chains in the parking lot. We're going to have a problem.
I have to admit, I have an innate distrust of government. I mean, we need it to some degree, but it's too big right now. It's gone too far. It's been going too far for quite some time. We did an event in 2000, the Endangered Species Banquet, where all the meat is rare. And it was, I mean, it was kind of takeoff of a movie. I don't remember the name of the movie. The Freshman, that was the movie. The Freshman, where, I mean, we pretended that we were eating endangered species. I mean, the promo copy said things like, you know, have you ever had snail darter? You know, what does spotted owl really taste like? We didn't have anything endangered. We were just pretending that we did. But I knew that we had won when 2 days before the event, I get a call from an official of the Department of Fish and Game in Sacramento, who gets me on the phone and says, now, Mr. Johnson, please tell me that you're not really serving endangered species at this banquet. And I said, well, you know what, officer, truth be told, it would blow our street cred if everybody knew that everything that we were serving had been purchased off a website from Seattle. Now, it was some pretty bizarre crap. I mean, you know, we were eating cobra and turtle and rattlesnake and emu and kangaroo and, you know, some pretty crazy things. But none of it was endangered. It was just part of the shtick. But I loved getting calls from state agencies who got their underwear in a knot.
People at a local radio station claim all they were doing was pulling a harmless prank in their eyes until the CHP overreacted, they say. Brendan Conway has the story.
You hear him? He just kicked us out of his office.
What?
He just locked the door.
What? He locked the door to his office?
He just came and pushed us out of the door and locked it.
He didn't want our gift?
That gift was more accurately a female blow-up doll.
So Rick Rodham sent Cerebral Paul over with this inflatable doll, and the office staff freaked out. I mean, they blew it all out of proportion. You know, unbeknownst to Rick and his afternoon show at the time, you know, assemblymen are protected by the Highway Patrol. So before you know it, there's the Highway Patrol there. And, you know, they confiscated some of the evidence. They threatened the station. I really took great offense to that, not as a bit. I mean, the bit was just what we always did. We were making fun of somebody. But I really thought that constitutional rights were stepped on. I really thought the state of California went way too far over something that was pretty minor. I really believe to this day that that was a case of law enforcement that stepped over the line. And because they were law enforcement, they were able to cover their own tracks.
I've forgotten more concerts than most people have been to. And it's just, we did a lot of concerts. I remember him saying, oh, I saw Megadeth. In fact, that was one of the first places I met you. I said, I saw Megadeth here.
That a club that was around for 4 years is still so infamous. People still talk about it 20 years later, you know that.
Those were our salad days, man. We did everybody at that club from Chris Isaac to White Zombie, Guns N' Roses. I booked them when it was still the Old Town Saloon, to country acts like Susie Boggess, Eric Burden and the Animals. Green Day played the club. Stone Temple Pilots, my name was Big Rock back then. Stone Temple Pilots played Big Rock's $2 chili night at the Cadillac Club.
And how many people would fit in the Cadillac Club?
Legally? Legally, I think we were rated for about 400 people, 390, something like that. But I think the statute of limitations is run, so I remember White Zombie show there about 750 people.
It was a perfect extension of what KRZR was at the time. It was loud. It was a little dirty. You felt perfectly at home.
I believe it used to be an old newspaper where they'd bring the big reams of newspaper, and it was where they would store it. And it's just a big concrete building. Had a big stage, had big sound, lights. It was a showcase venue. We didn't do cover bands there. It was strictly touring acts, touring comedians, everything.
What was the worst show you ever saw then? Oh my God! What's the dude from Wasp? Blackie Lawless. Blackie Lawless decided long after the minuscule career of Wasp was over, whatever little heyday they might have had, he decided the Cadillac Club would be where he would launch the two worst consecutive words in the world: rock opera.
And I think that's the legacy of the Cadillac Club. It wasn't, we catered to the artists, but then again we catered to the fans too. Because like I said, you name a band, and my brothers will look at each other, and someone will be talking about a band that's out or a band that's coming through, and I'll look at my brother Peter, who was a co-owner at the Cadillac Club. We'll look at each other, and they played there too. Yes, they did. So
the women at the Nelson concert were ravenous. In fact, I was scared. I had to leave. You see early scenes of women screaming over the Beatles. That's the way they were over Nelson.
Two dyed blonde child actor twins should not be the concert most of us remember the most, considering the kind of concerts that came through KRZR. I mean, we had them all, and we played them all. But Nelson was Nelson.
we did that one.
Did you do the Nelson?
Yeah, that was huge. Although, instead of getting security guards, I thought we'd have to hire maybe 50, 60 babysitters.
That was the prime and perfect moment for little mini dresses. There was nothing like it. I've never seen that many ravenous, and it's the only word, women. They were hitting on anything, but only because they wanted really badly to go meet Nelson. I don't think a single guy who worked for KRZR that night went home with anybody. But we all managed to get suckered into bringing those girls backstage to meet Nelson.
I've heard that the women were just scandalous at that show, like just the manner of dress. It was just that kind.
Rick, they were 12.
Manfest started out as the most ugly, inbred, bastard spawn of corporate radio that there could ever possibly be. The first Manfest was because poor John Townsend was told that by the corporate suits that he had to make a certain amount of money. John Townsend was a sales manager, loved John Townsend, but he was told he had to make a certain amount of money or his gig was up by the first quarter. If he didn't make X amount in the first quarter, he was gone. So he came up with this idea, well, if we got some girls in bikinis and maybe a couple of bands, and I can sell some booths, we can sell some t-shirts, and we can do it at this park in Sanger in Selma, Pioneer Park in Selma. We can do it for nothing. And the first one was terrible. It was just terrible. I was embarrassed by it.
The beer guzzling pig comes to mind at Manfest. We were backstage and we were getting ready to do the chug off with the wild boar, and I don't remember what his name was. Lucky the wild boar. And for some reason somebody from Fox 26 showed up because they were going to cover the Manfest, And I remember writing those press releases, so I was like, yes, finally, we're getting some coverage. And later that night, there was something about PETA and, like, owning an illegal wild animal, and how we were abusing it by drinking beer. That was awesome. I recorded it.
Over the years, we managed to improve it. We got bigger bands. We actually got a budget for it. We proved to the company that we could do good rock shows and put a little bit of coin in their pocket also.
Run-ins with Bridget the Midget that day at ManFest.
Well, I remember we were sitting backstage, and I remember when she pulled up, she got out of the van because she had a driver, and she was already stumbling pretty good, you know, so I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't really check out her band all that much, I gotta be honest, too. But, I've never heard a crowd boo so loud as when they finished their first song, and she's all, Fresno! And they're all, boo! In fact, I think she stormed off like 3/4 of the way through, and then she had a meltdown that Rick had to talk her down off the top of her tour van.
My best concert experience, I think, was when I got to introduce Slipknot. And Rick's great idea was to go up there and be like, hey, if you scream loud enough, tell them you're gonna flash me. But they don't. I remember going up and there were 2 cops on the side of the stage, people couldn't see them, and I got booed off the stage, and it was the coolest feeling ever, and people still talking about that. Remember that time you were fucking teased? Yep.
Why are we talking to you?
I'm Mike Bass from 6 Ounce Gloves. I'm the bass player, obviously. It's not Mike Drums. Well, KRZR was at the time the only, you know, local station that was even giving anybody a chance. You had an hour that you played local music. You know, you guys were intricate in at the time, like the Planet gigs and things like that. You jumped on and you talked, and you know, as a local rock DJ, I mean, you're very important to the local scene. So the DJs and the station were very big, and the opportunities that you gave, the Battle of the Bands that we got to be a part of, you know, to open for Korn, to open for Papa Roach and Motor Grader, and I mean, the list goes on. You guys kept bringing them to town and giving us more and more opportunity.
Talk about those local events where, you know, I think obviously the big one was, you know, that Battle of the Bands where someone was going to open for Korn, you know. Just that show, and then maybe the Korn show too.
You're gonna give me the chills just thinking about it again. I think about it all the time. It's probably one of the best feelings of my life. I don't know which was better, the night before or the night of. The night before was the Battle of the Bands, and we ended up pulling the last spot, and as we're warming up in the back, because there was stipulations about loading on fast or slow, you know, you had to be on and off by 10 minutes. And so we were getting everything ready back there, and you could hear the crowd chanting our name, and I was just like, this is gonna happen. This is gonna happen, you know. And sure enough, we won, and I definitely didn't sleep that night. I sat right there for hours at a time, just staring off into space. We get there, we unload, and Selland Arena. Nothing better than playing sound check to an empty arena, because you can hear everything, and it's just booming, and every song you play, you're just like, man, that's the best song we've ever played. Because it sounds like a CD, and then, you know, as we're getting ready back there, we're sharing a dressing room with Skindred and Breaking Benjamin, and we're drinking beers and stretching out, and getting closer to game time. We get up to the side stage, and the stage manager walks over, and he's like, okay, you guys ready? We're like, yeah, we're ready. He goes, 3, 2, 1, boom, lights go out, crowd goes crazy, flashlights start going like this, and those flashlights are for us. Selland Arena with Korn, dude, unreal. That's right about the time that we signed with our label in New York, and we released that album with Where Do I Go on it, and everybody really latched onto it. Everybody really jumped on it, and
you know, that was a dark day, because that was an idiot who colored outside the lines. You know, all the radio stations played really rough with each other, but we knew where the lines were. We didn't destroy each other's property.
It's a Collective Soul where I think my PD got arrested on that one. They were like, we'd park a truck, and then ZR would get some big tow truck to come in the middle of the night and like haul it away. And then like,
so New Rock shows up, day of Collective Soul,
we've got these marine flatbed trucks in front of the Wilson. We've got the 2.5-foot story, you know, Hare that's rocking in the wind. We got these speakers that are massive. We own the street. All our cars are up and down it. Bannered ZR everywhere. And the gay pride truck is down the street, sitting in its little self. And the new rock people show up thinking they've got front row to the Wilson, and they have nothing. And they're pissed. Next thing I know, they're like, Don O'Neill, Dick O'Neill's getting arrested. You know, get the camera, he's getting arrested. Well, Don got so mad at me and fired up that he went and tried to cut our broadcast. He went and tried to cut our power lines. Yeah, which is a federal offense. He happened to cut Star's power lines, not mine, not ZR. So anyways, I grabbed the camera and they're rolling, they're putting him in the police car. And as they're putting, you know, the head into the car, I'm like, Don! Dick! Dude! Smile for the camera! And I'm just snapping pictures at him and he's just, fucking bitch, I'm sure, you know.
But that was a dark day because it drew the attention of the police to the shenanigans that had been going on for years. And so they clamped down on the stations with noise ordinances. We couldn't play the loudspeakers anymore. We couldn't play the music out on the streets at the concerts. We couldn't do the stunts that we did. That PD blew it for Fresno radio.
There really are people in suits and ties who count how many songs an hour you play, and they think that it's make or break to your radio station. When you know that since it's a rock station, if you listen long enough, you're still going to hear your favorite song. But in between, here's some other stuff that we're able to bring to you because we care enough to try.
I would say by the time we got to the millennium, to the year 2000 is kind of when it probably took a turn for the worse.
We really approached every day on the air as we may all get fired tomorrow. They may shut the transmitter off tomorrow. We're going to make the best of every single day. And that attitude carried into the corporate years. We were used to calling our own shots to some degree, and we fought for ourselves. From 1989 to 2000, KRZR had 8 different owners.
The nice things about small companies changing hands and looking to flip a profit and turn a station is that they're not really paying attention to what you're doing. And so for all the times that people say, boy, KRZR got away with so much stuff, that's right, because nobody was looking.
KRZR didn't really become corporate until the money started running out. And here's what I mean by that. The internet crash of 1999 affected radio in a very, very bad way. Radio as a whole took a lot of advertising from a lot of these internet companies who, you know, their stock wasn't worth the paper that it was written on. Radio stations all across the country blew off local advertisers and blew off local relationships because they thought they were going to ride the internet gravy train. Well, when the internet stock crashed, a lot of those local advertisers never came back.
And poor E. Curtis, because he knew it was his baby, it's his child. That whole state, there's no KRZR without E. Curtis. He was the first guy there. Even he had to start repeating what his overlords were saying, which was, that's a really great idea. Here's why we can't do it.
We always felt that our bosses could be assholes, but you knew that they still cared. They still cared about the listeners, they cared about the employees. Once this change in ownership came, that sense of caring just withered. I didn't feel like they really cared. And it was like a flower on the sidewalk, man. Just after he couldn't survive, couldn't stand. And then I started seeing people that I had seen a lot of light behind their eyes. That light started to fade. That made me sad.
It's stupid, but one of the things that sticks out in my head was when Dennis Leary came out with the Asshole song. You weren't allowed to say asshole on the air. So we had to introduce the song as we were allowed to play the song, oddly enough, but it was the A-hole song. And somewhere along the line, somebody just decided that we were going to start saying asshole. And so we started introducing it as such. Here's Dennis Leary, it's the Asshole song. And then it was a game. Then it was how many times can we use asshole in a 2-minute break because, you know, we can say it now. Now it's one of those words we're allowed to say. And then, I don't know, corporate took over, Janet Jackson showed nipple, asshole was gone.
When you left, did you know that was the end of the front row?
No. When I left in 04, I'll tell you the exact reason why I left KRZR in 04. Because Incubus is the sorriest band I have ever heard in my life. And I'm kind of being facetious, but I'm kind of not. I was 44 years old when I left KRZR. And the whiny, my dad was mean to me, Incubus music, I wasn't really relating anymore. And I knew I could talk. And I wanted to see if I could do it without music. Simple as that.
At that point, we kind of had all shifted. You know, with Chris gone, I kind of shifted into the first chair, and Brad had shifted into the second chair. And it was a natural, awesome opening. And unfortunately, once they came down with it, you can't have Chaz, you can't, no, we need basically first chair in there. We're looking to replace first chair, not third chair. At that point, I knew, oh, well, our days are numbered. They have no faith in the rest of the show, and now it's just a matter of looking for a reason to get rid of us.
And that was like, that really was like losing a family member. It was, or losing your family. But the family was still there. I can't say enough about the listeners at KRZR who are there to just say, we like what you did. We like you, and regardless of what anyone else says, they're just to say something, or they'll be there for you, and it always meant a lot. Even Chris and I had a show in San Francisco for a while, but a lot of my heart was right here. I didn't leave.
I've met Rick Bentley a few times. He's a nice guy, but he's doing his thing. He's doing his thing. And that really surprised me. I remember after the front row was let go, he said he had written a column saying, I've never received so much reaction to the point where I'm going to dedicate a column to the letters that I received. And I still have that column, and I can't even tell you, it made me cry. I can still pull that out, and those letters will make me cry. It's, that made everything corporate not matter, because I never did it for them. I did it for the people that turned on the radio every morning, and to be able to see, we don't always get that feedback. I mean, sure, there's people that call, and sure, sometimes if you're out at a remote, maybe a couple people will come by, but it's hard to know. It's really hard to know if it matters. At the end of the day, if what you're doing really matters to anybody, and to see those letters and that support, and that now it's taken away, and that hurts me, and that makes me sad, and that touches my life, was absolutely incredible.
I knew we kind of had taken the wrong step. Now looking back on it, when we decided to add Man Cow, which was a syndicated morning show to the station, I think we were hoping for big things, but that was kind of the first nail in the coffin.
Every day was a beatdown. Every day was some corporate force or some guy telling me that what we were doing wasn't working, and there were a lot of decisions that I got pressured into. Some bad decisions that I signed off on. Man Cow, bad decision. Bad decision. No offense to Man Cow, but we zigged when we should have zagged.
I shouldn't say I didn't listen. I flipped the dial a few times, and to listen for 10 seconds and to go on isn't really a fair shot at anyone. But what I heard in that 10 seconds was crap. And everything I read, I was tuned to the bar napkin for a while, just eagerly saying thank you to everyone. I saw a lot of hate pouring out, and maybe he did deserve it because he stepped in where, when a love show leaves, whoever steps in is going to take the heat. It doesn't matter if they're the best show in the world; they're going to really take a lot of anger.
I didn't expect Man Cow to work. I mean, for a lot of reasons. First of all, you're and we talked about this, and I don't know how much you've talked about this or not, but you were supposed to have the morning show. And that would have been the worst thing that ever happened to you, because any time you replace a beloved morning show with anything else, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter. It's going to fail, because people are so pissed off that you took away their routine, their part of their day, that you can't just plug something else in.
Now, being a local morning show host, I would say that having a local talent in the morning is imperative, Something changed about it. I know that I remember the day that they made the announcement, and I remember the day you walked out. And I remember wanting to follow you, but being scared because I didn't know where we were going.
The company wasn't spending any money at that time. There was no promotional efforts. We were a product that was changing, and the audience was changing, and the corporate entity didn't really care. I think to some degree they had kind of written the station off at that point. You know, could somebody have followed the front row? Sure. Absolutely, someone could have. But it didn't work out that way. You know, the sun and the moon and the stars were not in alignment at that time, and we were lucky to still be on the air.
Rev, who had experience with the format and with the audience, and so then we took over, and I was nervous because KRZR was a legend.
I mean, with ZR, dude, we just sit around, come up with like, well, what can we do today? Look, that's like stupid, you know. Like, what can we do today? So we got like our intern in a diaper, and then he's digging through the trash because my ex like accidentally threw some shoes away and it rained, and like there's garbage water up to here, and he's in a diaper digging. You know, it's like just whatever. Yeah, why not? Let's do that. That'll be fun. Why not?
After Man Cow, I mean, you could have put just about anybody on. I'm thinking it would have worked. But we came out with guns blazing. And people were excited because we were bringing back some of that attitude. We were local. I mean, that's a big deal too. You know, we're guys that we're in a community. You know, we live next to the listeners. Our kids go to school with you, and we were out on the street. We did well. You know.
He brought me in his office and said, "I gotta tell you something." You know, so I was like, "What's going on?" You know. And to be honest, I thought, well, maybe we were changing even the format of KRZR at that point in time. But no, he surprised me when he said, you know, I'm leaving. You know, they're gonna let me finish out my 2 weeks here, but I'm out of here. You know, and I basically told E, you know, you can't go. You know, and he said, I'm out of. You know, I'm going. It doesn't matter what I think. It's like it's time for me to go.
You know, I had to look at the writing on the wall. At that same time was that whole vortex intersection of record company money drying up, you know, radio station balloon payments started being due. I mean, it was the intersection of death and hell.
It was his baby. It's his child. That whole state, there's no KRZR without Eddie Curtis. He was the first guy there.
I got to be the coach. I'm proud, and I was a player too. I got to be the coach and player of a really powerful team for a really, really long time. Of a station that should have gone away a million times. You know, early owners going bankrupt. I mean, the company that owned us, 2 months after KRZR went on the air, the company filed for bankruptcy. We didn't have money for a long, long time. We could have been bought by a number of people who would have changed the format in a heartbeat. I mean, we got lucky for so long. You know, it was the little engine that could, and I was proud of the fact that we built something really good and something that the audience really liked from nothing. I was proud of that.
We should fire E. Well, that's a great idea. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Let's do that. It's like they just picked the most random things.
I remember calling, like, what's this website thing? What, you know, tell them it's not true. You know, if it's not true, then, well, that's just going to spread the rumors. You know, don't give any gas to the fire or whatever.
I knew it was, I told Doug, so we've had this new boss for like, what, 6 months or something now, and he hasn't met with us? Either we're doing such a great job, just kicking so much ass, that he doesn't need to even talk to us, or they're going to get rid of us here real quick. And then we saw 103.7 The Beat, the Beat Fresno website. There was a website, and we're like, so we go and I think it was Doug goes and asks, and they says, no, we're not planning on anything like that. No, it's all good.
He said, oh no, there's nothing to worry about. So, which means they're just bullshitting usually.
What is this? What's going on? Oh, and his reply, and I don't know how much. I mean, I know that he knew,
But I mean, obviously his hands were tied. You can tell. He goes, I don't know. He goes, it's a radio. He goes, it's some type of stunt.
The interesting thing is that of the 4 rock stations that were operating at the time they pulled the plug on KRZR, KRZR was still on top.
No idea. I mean, like I've said, like we had a whole calendar planned. I had promotions lined up. We were moving forward, and in fact, when the rumors started circulating, I was like, "There's no way they're going to flip us," because I just got a calendar paid for.
The operations manager, Paul's successor, comes by and says, "I need you to come in for a meeting." And I happened to come in, and I saw our general manager walking around, and the HR person that we refer to as the Angel of Death was wandering around. I knew something was up.
They called me in, and...
Did you know that it was your last day there?
No, God, no. People in the building knew. I wish they would have given you a little heads up. Well, I walk in, and there's the boss and HR, and then the big cheese. And I go, well, I guess I don't need to sit down. And I'm like looking for my papers. I just knew. And I was going through so much personal stuff. My life would just... I mean, I'd be coming home from the show and just staring at the wall for 6 hours.
When I found out that I was being let go, I didn't know the station was changing format. I just was told I was being let go. And at the time, I had a family crisis going on. That very same day, my wife was told that she had breast cancer.
So he's waiting on that. He's talking to her. They don't just say like, oh, hey, thanks, and this and that, and go clean out your desk. It's like, you can't get anything out of your desk. They escort you out, take your key, whatever, and they walk you out the door like a criminal.
And then I get pulled in to the operations manager's office, and HR's in there, and I'm thinking I'm done. And the preface goes, you still have a job, you still have a job. And then the speech was, as of, I believe it was 12 p.m. I go, as of 12 p.m., KRZR no longer exists.
I remember it was 11 o'clock, and I got called into the office, to the corner office with the trifecta, the PD, GM, and the HR person, and I went, well, this isn't good. And I was like, look, is KRZR gone? I just cut him off. I was like, stop fucking with me, don't sugarcoat it, just tell me, did you just kill my baby? And yes, I went to my office and I put on our Facebook page something like "It's been fun," and then I put on my Facebook page, I'll always love you, and that was like kind of morbid, but it was just like, that was all I could say. And then I went into the studio and I just started crying, and Coyote came in, and I remember flipping out the last song. I put a Rage Against the Machine song to play because it was going to flip at noon. It was right in the middle of my shift too, and I just remember crying, and I think we went up to a meeting or something, and I came back down, and just, they didn't want us to stay there. They didn't want to see the blood.
It's like the digital equivalent of a skip. It's like a skipping record, and it would go off the air and come back on, and then it went like, they were having technical problems with their sign-on.
And after just, browbeating Skip and I, while we're sitting there in the corner going, look, just give us a couple minutes to cry here. Literally cry, leave us alone. We're not going to come. They come in and had the audacity to ask us if we sabotaged the onset of the new station. No, we didn't.
After the station flipped, they didn't have their engineering done right, and shit wasn't playing, and they thought that me and Coyote sabotaged it. Like, they honestly asked me, like, they pulled Coyote in, they pulled me in, like, did you change anything? We need you to get out of the studio. No, and I was like, you know what? No, that's the Wild Hare just kicking you one last time in the nuts for taking a kidney shot. Yes, it's voodoo.
After being stripped mined by corporate radio, I left in February of 2007. They pulled the plug, September of 2010. And I'm really, really proud of the staff and what they did after I left.
21 years of kick-ass rock and roll, but it means more than that, I think, to the people of Fresno.
It does when you see how people reacted when it went away.
Like the Facebook page that sprung up and all the stuff in the articles.
Still, people are doing that because I saw something popped up on my thing the other day, and people are still commenting on that. still commenting on KRZR. I'm going, dude, how many people, like, the first day, it was like 3,500 or 4,000 people?
I don't know what it's up to, but it was like 7,000 people on Facebook on the Bring KRZR Back page. I mean, it was just like that.
And if I get a little verklempt with the whole Rick Bentley thing afterwards, where the support was coming in to the point where the Fresno Bee had to acknowledge. And you got to understand a little backstory there. There was a love-hate relationship with KRZR and the Fresno Bee. So to see that outpouring to the point where they had to acknowledge, we have to do something, we have to say something about this because, you know, we're a venue for people to talk. That really, really got me. I mean, more than I can ever put into words adequately, because that was my moment of, son of a bitch. They really liked what we did.
They don't care. If we had 10 million people, if we had 10,000 people with torches out there in the parking lot, they wouldn't care. It doesn't matter.
The outpouring was amazing. I was a little surprised by it.
What went through your mind that day that you heard about it?
Really?
Yeah.
What really went through my mind was that no matter what, and I didn't want to, this wasn't a career change, but no matter what, Jan and Brad and I weren't going to get to do it one more time. From there. And I hated those studios. But, I mean, I just didn't physically like the way they were. It made me feel, you know, I spent a third of my adult life working for KRZR. When that goes away, a little of you goes away, a little of you know, you get self-centered, like, you know, I'm getting old, and, you know, there are now going to be people who don't understand how special a station that was, you know.
I hear the cool kids talking to me, telling me why they're cooler than me, what I should be doing or listening to or going to, because they're telling me I should. I really genuinely believe KRZR was, hey, we're having a party over here, and it'd be awesome if you showed up. And you're not too cool to be there, and you're not too cool if you're not there.
Yeah.
We don't know that it's cool. We're just going to do it and hope people show up. And I really think KRZR always had that attitude, and I think it made a difference because it wasn't out of anybody's reach. It wasn't we're better than you, or we're cooler than you, or we're, you know, more hip than you, or more whatever than you. It's just, let's all go have a beer and do something and see what happens.
Yeah.
You know? And I really think that was special.
There shouldn't be another KRZR. There should not be. 104.1 should not try and become KRZR. The Blaze should not try and be KRZR. The Fox should not try and be KRZR. And I think it's smart that they didn't try. They might have, you know, taken some of the music and done it. I think that the stations are realizing that with KRZR's departure, I think it's a responsibility of the other stations to put some attitude into what they're doing. Does it have to be dick and fart jokes? Does it have to be show us your wild hair? Does it have to be the wing bolt? No. But it's all, if you're going to be Fresno's classic rock station, be ballsy.
There aren't going to be rock stations like that anymore. I don't think there are very many anymore now, unless they're in really small markets. And in that case, they probably don't necessarily have a full lineup of talent, like ZR was so lucky to have. Something really good and really bad is gone, and maybe for good.
Story has so much weight, and sometimes you'll meet someone and they'll tell you, remember that time when you told the story about how your van burned down in the desert and you almost froze to death? Yeah. I almost got pulled over, the cop let me go because he hurt, or something like that. And it touched them and it touches me, and it's bigger than, like you said, it's bigger than all of us. And when I have t-shirts now, all my KRZR t-shirts, and some of them are getting pretty nasty. And my wife throws ones, you know, this shirt's day has come. I'm like, no, you're not throwing that shirt away. I don't care if it's just a couple strings. I'm saving that shirt because it has a sacredness to it.
That everybody that was a part of it loved it just as much as everybody who listened, and that I'm sorry it didn't get what it deserved at the end. You know, I'm sorry. I remember it though, like on a daily. I really do remember it on a daily basis. Like, it's random, you know, like I check my clock and it'll be 10:37. It did it today at like 10:37 in the morning. Like, I could check the clock any time of day. Why do I always look and it's 10:37? You know, like, and I know it sounds stupid, but like, I had my second daughter at 1:03 in the morning and she weighed 7 pounds. You know? It really was a part of me. Like, I really feel like I loved it, and I'm so sorry that people didn't know that we didn't just leave them.
It was, just unique across the board. Unique with the promotions we did. Unique with the on-air personalities. Just special. It was a special station, and I just love that we could do whatever we could drink. Whatever crazy idea would stick on the wall. That was what we were going to go with, and that was fun. It was a fun station to work for. It really was a fun station to work for, and. There was days or nights I'd come home and I'd feel pretty dirty because of whatever I had just been a part of, whatever that was. I needed a cold shower, but it was fun.
I remember reading about Kino and all the boss jock guys that came out of here. And KRZR, honestly, and you talk to, you know a lot of record guys, and they become your friends, the good ones, and it's like, this is like the last station like this. And I was talking to one of the guys who used to work with us. I go, do you realize you're so lucky to work here? This is one of the last honest rock stations. This is it, man. You don't do it like this anymore. It's totally, and the legacy is, what a kicking ass for almost 22 years? And just a solid ass whooping. Came in, kicked ass, and never stopped.
We had to be the dirtiest station in America, and of which we are supremely proud.
That's why we're doing a film.
Yeah. And
it wouldn't be a funny film otherwise.
18 years with no dump button. No delay.
How many times do you think that?
We took calls live, dude, with no screener. Rock people. Zipper heads all messed up in the morning. Just, how you doing? What do you want to say to 35,000 people?
I think there was a special connection. We were real. We invited them to our house, and they invited us to their houses. We went. The front row used to do broadcasts from people's bedrooms, in the morning. One time Chris Daniel had a light the flame contest in the studios of KRZR, where guys were eating beans and broccoli and with lighters trying to make blue flame. It was real in the sense that we did the same dumb things that they did.
I think about, being, not me, but a listener, a dude, he's just a dude, and he's too skinny, and he's not good looking, and he doesn't know where he's going, he's 17, and there was one place you could go where the people were either singing or talking about stuff that mattered to you at that point.
This film is dedicated to all the talented people who worked at KRZR, all the awesome people who listened, and all the legendary rock stations that aren't around anymore. This is the story of rock radio in Fresno, but it could easily be the story of the kick-ass rock station in your hometown. Long live rock and roll, and long live the Wild Hare.
External, a pair of much less vengeful eyes. Internal life you try to fight starts deeper than you realize. The hushing of original brilliance, the greatest common tragedy. I'd accept a life of blindness to make you believe what I say. To make you believe what I say.
Bye, James. Not exactly what you expected to see, is it? I think you better come and see me. Goodbye.
I'm pretty happy that somebody put this together. I think it was worth it, and I'm a little bit nervous about a past I don't entirely remember.
So have you seen the whole thing yet?
No, no one has. We've all just seen the trailers you've seen on YouTube. I think there's 2 of them, maybe 3, and they were real good. Rodham has promised that the movie's better. We'll see. Yeah.
Very cool.
Are you all ready to see some serious foolishness? Thank you for coming. My name is Jim Hudson, and I only have one nut. I've been dying to say that for a week. There are some crusty ass t-shirts in here. Thank you for keeping them, thank you for wearing them, thank you for remembering the Wild Hare.
Thank you.
We'll talk a lot about that in the after party that absolutely everybody is invited to, but this is a premiere, and it's traditional, and I think it's proper that you bring up the directors and the producers. Please welcome Rick Rodham and give it up for One Nut Jim Hudson. I listen to Jim Hudson every afternoon on KMJ.
Alright, there's a lot of people we want to thank, namely Susan Neville from the Tower Theater. There's not a fair place in the big city of Fresno that we could have premiered this. And I worked with Susan a lot over the years, and Susan's always like, Rick, you think the Rockers are going to show up for a movie? And I'm like, Susan, are you going to serve beer? She's like, yeah, we'll serve beer. And I'm all, well, then the KRZR Rockers are gonna fucking be there. Beer in a movie? Shit. So I just want to say something serious before you see the movie, and I hope you like it. If you do, Jim Litt doesn't know this, but she'll be working the t-shirt booth afterwards. And that is Big Corporate McRadio can try to kill the Wild Hare, but tonight, thanks to you guys, we're making sure that the Wild Hare is never gonna die. It's gonna live forever, and it lives with you guys. So enjoy the movie. Long live rock and roll, and long live the Wild Hare. Cheers.
sign here. All right. How do you like that? Yeah.
The truth of the matter is, there are so many culprits that could have stolen this. So many. What a nice surprise.
You know what? I never ever got to say, and I always wanted to say, I always say 103.7 KRZR, the Wild Hare. If I could have just, see, it's great to say it here, but if I would have had a mic and just one time, that's all I ever would have wanted. And every kid who ever listened to ZR did it at home, so shut up. Just saying, beautiful movie. Skippy did great in it. You know, she kind of worded it the way a lot of fans worded it. You know, Jen Lip, always insightful. Christina, it's just good seeing all of them on the screen. And when everybody got up here, I literally leaned over to my friend Lacey and I said, "This is the way it would have been if they could have had a big party when it all went down." You know, it probably would have been a lot more wild, a little more nudity. I mean, Coyote still hasn't shown his ass, but this is the way it should have been. So keep that thing on. You might see his ass before the night's through. All right.
All right, so I was 19 years old, drunk. Call in. Coyote calls me in for a contest with now my wife. She was my girlfriend at the time. I didn't know what the contest was. We go down there and find out it's a relay race. We have to shove a hard-boiled egg up our ass. Okay. For Ozfest tickets. Yeah. Okay. So I tell her, you go first. I'll make up the difference on the way around, you know.
Two of us, and it was two guys.
Yeah, we're going against two guys. So I said, put the girl first. She puts the egg in her ass, goes around, hands it off to me, and I'm so excited for this. I got my pants down, ready for it. I don't even zip up my pants. I'm running around. On the last turnaround, I fall down because my pants fell to my ankles. Fall down, break one hand, sprain the other. Didn't know it at the time, and my butt clinched the hard-boiled egg into 1,000 pieces in my ass. So when I get to the end, the guy is like nicely peeling his hard-boiled egg, but I knew that I didn't have time to peel off the hundreds of pieces of egg, so I threw the whole thing in my mouth, the shell and all, ate it down, but I lost. Fantastic.
So we didn't get Ozfest.
We didn't get the Ozfest tickets, but
we got a movie premiere.
well, because I didn't eat it. The other guy ate it first. The other guy ate it first.
But then he ended up breaking his hand.
Yeah.
From falling down, and he actually got moved
Yeah.
from the shop.
I got moved from where I was working from the shop to the office because I couldn't work, and it ended up landing me my fantastic job I have right now, just because I ended up staying there. So I owe my current job to KRZR.
I like the movie. A lot of the faces, you didn't see the faces, you saw the DJs. Now I can put faces to it. And now rock and roll has gone to computer rock and roll. People don't talk on the radio, don't have personalities. It's better to listen to your MP3 player, you know, rather than the stations they have now.
It was awesome. It was awesome. It didn't feel like that long ago KRZR was gone, but reliving the whole thing again. KRZR went off, so it was the last time I listened to the radio. So since then, nothing lives up to what KRZR did. So it's a damn shame.
Yeah, I do.
All the old school scenes that came up, all the old stuff, just brought back a lot of memories. Absolutely. It was the best rock station we ever had, man. Sad to see it go.
The Freaks live on! And they sound better on iTunes, according to Terry Gray. I have too. He's got an annoying camera. Wonderful guy, annoying camera.
Loved it.
Awesome. Definitely brought back memories.
Memories of going to school and could not leave the car until we heard the Freak Show.
It was fantastic. It was fantastic. It was good. Oh yeah. You know, it was great. You know, I interned there for a long time. With Mike Bauer and RJ. Somehow I'll never forget those times.
Great movie, great. Wild Hare, man, every time.
I cried, I laughed, I burped, I farted, I felt every human emotion. I'm just glad it was in 3D and not in my pants.
I was driving around town at that age. You would always see the various promotions. I remember one night we were going out for a party and we were going to somebody's house, and it was that time somebody got in trouble for offering free beer. And we passed by the free beer banner on the house. There were cars everywhere, and I heard them get in trouble by the cops for doing it. I think that was part of that Show Us Your Wild Hare. They're the ones that got busted.
Really excited to have a thorough explanation as to how and why the channel disappeared. The station just went away. It was a complete surprise to me the day it happened. I just turned on my radio and crappy music was playing, and I didn't know why, so to actually find out why and how and have it all tied up was really nice to see.
I didn't like it, man. I didn't like it a bit. I loved it. No. It was good stuff. Like, I yelled in there that I was never beat. Actually, I was beat. They brought in like this one cat. Chris Daniel threw me out to the world, and this guy from Fresno State that was a Fresno State wrestler came in. That SOB snatched me up like a piece of bacon and dropped me on a sprinkler, a 6-inch metal sprinkler. So that dude beat me, and the only two guys I ever tied were actually brothers. Otherwise, people would call, they would win a prize, and they had to give their name, their address, their social security number for that matter. And we would run around with that Marty transmitter in that KRZR drop bottom truck and wrestle people from like 6 to 7 in the morning. I was never beat by a listener, but that doesn't mean that they didn't always win.
I made a promise to Rick First of all, if KRZR was still on the air, we would have never been allowed in the Tower Theater. Ever. And the second irony is that even though KRZR's had so many single disc jockeys, guys like Jimmy Drago and RJ, despite that, Carlota still gets the hottest chicks. Now, it would not be a proper KRZR event if some moron didn't throw out a little swag. So here it is. My wife's been telling me, "Would you get this stuff out of the closet for crying out loud?" It's the KRZR way, throwing stuff into the crowd. It's also the KRZR listener way for somebody to come up to me and go, "Do you have this in a large?"
Hey, I loved the movie. It captured it. I think the star of the movie was Skippy, man. She said what everybody else felt. She just really brought it out. And Rodham, Jovi, amazing job. That's a labor of love. That was a great movie. It was real. It is how it really was. And it was nice to see it one more time.
Amazing. Awesome. Except for that chick that kept crying. God damn. Crying? Crying in me. I know. You're crying in rocks.
It was awesome. It was awesome. Wild Hare.
I thought they captured some of the essence of the Wild Hare. And without fisticuffs. I mean, I'm serious. If truth be known, the listeners of the Wild Hare are crazier than the Nashville jocks because you guys provoke us. Who is in that stinky thing? Someone over there who was breathing despair in the last verse of the morning. And it's a shame that I didn't get to listen to more of the ZR after the front row was fired because people say, you listen to Man Count, forget it. But Doug and the Rep had a good show. They really did. It's kind of like, Did you see your ex-wife? Did you see the picture with her other new husband? No, I don't want to look at the picture of my ex-wife with her new husband. She looks too happy. Holy shit, that's my parent. Now, I wasn't ready for that either. That's really my parents over there. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah, damn onion truck, what's up with that? Passed right by, made my house on water, it was weird, man.
How did I become a fan? Oh hell, KKDJ sucks, so I went to KRZR.